Well, let's return now to our voters panel, shall we? Lots to digest from what we've been hearing. A little earlier, I spoke to the Shadow Business Secretary, Jonathan Reynolds. Thank you very much for being on the programme this evening. So, firstly, I want to talk about our voters panel, and I think it is important to reflect that actually, you know, the headline news is that it's overwhelmingly bad for the Conservatives. People who voted Conservative in 2019 switching to other parties or staying at home. Is that what you're picking up on the doorstep?
Oh, yeah, it is. I mean, the last few days, I've been not just in my own constituency, I've been in Blackpool, where we're expecting a by-election. I've been to New Mills and High Peak, traditional, very marginal constituency, and absolutely there is a sense and a very clear conviction that the Conservative Party has failed, that it's not one or two decisions recently, it's the 14-year record that people are quite rightly unhappy with. And, of course, they're looking for an alternative. And I believe because of what Labour has done, we can be the alternative people didn't see us as in 2019. Always more to do, of course. But, of course, we can say to those people, the country needs change, and the change that we can deliver, we can prove to you we can deliver, because look at how Labour itself has changed, and I think that is important.
I think that's it, isn't it? People are looking for an alternative, because what the panel also shows, you know, digging a little deeper, around a fifth of Conservative voters said they'd switch to Labour. But the rest of them, you know, they're switching to the Lib Dems, to Reform, they don't know who to vote for, they want to stay at home. Is that enough? Direct switches to Labour?
We've seen in the by-elections direct switching, and obviously we want more of that. Our job is to tell those people you can trust us, come along and tell us what you need from us. But we think what we're putting forward is a real plan, is a real alternative. I've been at the big Make UK conference today, manufacturers' conference, setting out Labour's plan ahead of the budget, which, of course, is for industrial strategy, for our green prosperity plan, for fixing the Brexit relationship, sorting out the planning system, getting Britain building. We've got a really solid programme. And, of course, as you get closer to an election, you get a bit more chance as the opposition to put that forward, and that's what we're going to do. But, of course, I'm going to say, compared to where we were in 2019, where, to be honest, it was people switching away from Labour and Labour voters saying they couldn't this time support Labour, I'll accept people switching to us.
You see, this is the thing, isn't it? It's the kind of slightly depressing truth about this election. You don't really need that many people directly switching to you. You just need them to not vote Conservative, and that'll get you over the line. So are we basically in for, you know, an anti-Tory campaign rather than a positive Labour campaign?
No, I think, look, the fact that the government's record is so poor will affect how traditional Conservative voters see it. And some of those people who voted Conservative maybe in every election in their lifetimes who's saying this time no, I mean, that is, you know, it's a response to the scale of the government's failure. But we're going to be out making the positive case. And, of course, we wouldn't have won the kind of by-elections. I mean, let's be honest, the by-elections we've won, not even in target seats for Labour. And the scale of what Labour needs to do, we're trying to double the parliamentary Labour party.
You say you've got to go out and make the positive case, because it feels like, just going back to, you know, what people are telling us in these voter panels, that they're not sure exactly what that positive case is. Emma, Keir Starmer's someone that sits on the fence quite a lot. Tom, is he a capable leader? I don't know, we'll find out. He's also described as indecisive. When are you going to make this positive case and tell us exactly what the Labour vision is?
I mean, it's not going badly so far, let's be clear. Look at the poll lead, look at the by-election results.
My point is, I'm not arguing with that, but my point is that's people switching away from the Conservatives rather than necessarily switching deliberately to Labour.
The by-elections to win on those scale, in those places, saw significant switching to Labour. Of course, we want more than that. But look, I mean, in 2019, after that election, when we were having the leadership election in Labour, the question was people saying, look, you're going to have to try and pick a leader who sorts the Labour Party out. You've got no chance of winning the next election. The fact we're competitive speaks to the scale of the job that Keir has done. And I think very few people could deliver on the scale that Keir has done that on. And I think if you look into Labour's policy programme, there's actually more detail there than, you know, most oppositions have had at this scale. I think what we genuinely need to do, and we would all reflect on this in the Shadow Cabinet, is tell it a bit more in the human story. You know, this thing we had about how much should we spend on the Green Prosperity Plan. Really, what we need to do is say, look, it means green steel in your communities, it means warm homes, it means, you know, gigafactories so our car industry continues to be the success it can be. That's how we need to get it across. A bit more of that from Labour, we would reflect on that, absolutely. But look, we've got a great programme there, a real plan. And I think it is in real contrast to where the government have got to.
OK, you're talking there about, you know, telling human stories, setting out exactly what it means for people. Let's look ahead to the budget, shall we, and try and get a bit more of a sense about where Labour's at. The IFS has warned the Chancellor against cutting taxes in the budget. The IFS are saying now is not the time for tax cuts. Do you agree?
I think the public finances are a mess, and the departmental spending limits the Chancellor sets out, they're already, to be honest, a bit of a fantasy in terms of whether they could ever deliver on that. But look, we've been making a case. Rachel Reeves has been making a case for some years now. Unless the economy grows more strongly, any decision on public services, funding them, tax cuts, look, you're not going to be able to deliver anything what you want unless the economy grows more strongly.
I really don't know what your answer to the question is. It is now the time for tax cuts.
Well, look, I struggle to see on this level of growth and on these public spending forecasts how that could be done. I'm afraid I don't have faith in the Chancellor to make rational decisions. I don't think the chance of doing the right thing, if it's not, you know, around the electoral interest of the Conservative Party, I don't know what he might put forward, to be honest. And there's been so much speculation, one side or the other, it's hard to say. But what this country needs, what the priority's got to be, is a focus on growth.
So just to unpick that slightly, you're saying there that you don't see how tax cuts can be done right now. So are you effectively saying you agree with the IFS, now is not the time for tax cuts, we can't afford them?
Look, I respect the IFS's analysis. I'm afraid what I'm saying is I wouldn't put it past the Chancellor to ignore the experts. I
don't care about what the Chancellor's... I mean, I obviously do care about what the Chancellor's going to do, but right now, I want to know what you would do. You know, you want to be in government this year.
Absolutely.
I'm not talking about 5, 10 years.
So if it was a Labour budget, that's a far easier question. We sort out the planning system. We get Britain building houses
would you cut taxes?
And infrastructure.
That's the question.
Again, I think...
Or is now not the time?
We have, for instance, policies already to cut things like business rates and to reorganise how that system works. We wouldn't, for instance, be cutting corporation tax. We've said we're going to keep that at the level it's at, cap it at that level. We'd only change it if other countries change it. But the focus from us would be on industrial strategy, sorting out the apprenticeship levy, sorting out the planning system, making sure we fix the Brexit arrangements, all practical things to make the economy grow more strongly. And until the economy grows more strongly, no sustainable spending or tax cuts will be possible.
Emma says Keir Starmer's someone that sits on the fence quite a lot. I just don't know what the answer to the question is. Well, I'm not asking, like, would you take a penny off income tax? Or I'm not asking to write the manifesto.
These are hypothetical
questions. I think it's not a hypothetical question. I think that there is a genuine debate right now about taxes. The IFS says we can't afford to do them now, they got to wait. Other people saying, look, the tax burden's really, really high, we need to try and ease the burden on people's pockets. Where do you sit?
I say you ease the burden by growing the economy. That's got to be the only way.
So no tax cuts. No, that's not where you're.
I don't believe the public finances are in a strong position, but I obviously know. Let's be honest. We know the Chancellor will mess about. He'll try and set some sort of trap up. He'll present the economy as performing in a different way. And Chancellors have a lot of power. They can set the narrative. They can say they've got fiscal headroom by pretending they're going to do things we know they're not going to do. Field duty every year. So you've got to be canny in opposition, and we're going to be canny because we know this country needs an alternative. We know the power of the Tory machine to parrot false narratives. We are going to put forward our plan, which is strong, which is robust, which people can see, and is in a huge contrast to the weakness of the Prime Minister and the record of the last 14 years.
The other big story in Westminster today has been the Post Office, with the Select Committee looking into what exactly is going on in the Post Office. And to be honest, you know, I always struggled to write an interview question on it because I was like, you know, there's so much going on. There's a he said, she said. The overwhelming impression is just of a complete shambles. Yeah,
I absolutely agree with that. I think if you were a sub-postmaster watching that today, you would not have been impressed. And as you say, the allegation, the counter-allegation, this wasn't good at all. I think the only way you'll cut through that cynicism is get on with the exonerations that the Prime Minister promised 6 weeks ago now. No sign of the legislation quite yet. Maybe make an announcement too quickly on that for the headlines rather than doing the detail. But if you get the exonerations right, that's how the compensation is unlocked. The two things are automatically connected to each other. That's why we've been working with the government on the right way to do that. But we've got to get on with it. But today, I didn't look good.
Alan Bates, the kind of hero of the hour, if you like, the man who's driven all this from the start, he says that the Post Office should just be sold off to Amazon for £1. What do you make of that?
Well, Alan has seen the failures of the Post Office, and I think we all understand that. I wouldn't think that is the right way to go about this. I think the Post Office is still fundamentally important British institution. I think where you haven't got a post office as an MP, you're campaigning to get one because of the role it plays in the community. Clearly how it's been run, how people have been treated, not acceptable in any way. But, you know, there is a job that someone could come in and do when it comes to the Post Office. Look at the failure of banking services on the high streets, how the post office and banking hubs are having to fill that gap. There's still a need for that, and it's still right to have that in the public sector as it is. And if that is sorted out, there could be a strong future.
OK, thank you very much indeed. Thank you.